On the 1st of February, 2003, Columbia was 16 minutes from landing after 16 days in orbit. Then, 4 left-wing sensors vanished. Minutes later, both left tire pressure readings disappeared. At 8:59 a.m. Eastern, Columbia's final transmission broke off. The orbiter came apart over Texas. 7 people were aboard. They had finished their science work and practiced the landing that morning. Columbia never reached the runway at Kennedy Space Center. All 7 members of its crew were lost. Welcome to Built on Warnings, where every safeguard has a story written by the failures that came before. Together, we examine this failure. The damage began during a launch, when foam hit the left wing. Cameras saw the strike. Nobody obtained the image that could show what it had done. To understand how that image was missed, go back to the 16th of January. STS-107 was Columbia's 28th mission and the shuttle program's 113th flight. The orange external tank carried super-cold propellants. Foam covered the tank to stop them boiling, prevent ice, and protect the aluminium during the climb. At 81.7 seconds, a piece broke away from the left bipod ramp. 0.2 of a second later, it struck Columbia's left wing near Panel 8. Columbia was already about 65,600 feet high and moving at roughly 1,650 miles per hour. The strike lasted a fraction of a second. The wing's front edge was covered by reinforced carbon-carbon panels. Their job was to shield the aluminium structure from re-entry temperatures near 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. The crew felt no impact. The event was found the next day, when engineers reviewed higher resolution film from the launch cameras. Those cameras showed the foam crossing the frame, but not the condition of the wing afterwards. The strike was visible. Its result was not. That left one urgent question. Had the foam only marked the surface, or had it opened a route through the heat shield? A close image from orbit could have narrowed the answer. Yet nothing aboard Columbia appeared to have changed. The crew reached orbit, opened the laboratory, and began the mission as planned. Commander Rick Husband and pilot William McCool flew with Michael Anderson, Kalpana Chawla, and David Brown. Laurel Clark and Ilan Ramon completed the 7-person crew. Together, they worked in shifts so the laboratory could operate around the clock. The schedule covered 80 experiments, from human health and combustion to Earth observation. For 16 days, the work continued above a damaged wing nobody could see. The foam strike caused no obvious problem inside the cabin and did not interrupt the research. By the mission's final day, its planned objectives had been completed. Mission Control told the crew that engineers had reviewed the strike. The message said there was no concern about the carbon panels, the tiles, or re-entry. On the 31st of January, the crew finished its final science work. Husband, McCool, and Chawla also ran another computer landing simulation for the return the next morning. While that mission continued, people on the ground kept asking for a better view of the left wing. The board later counted 3 distinct imagery requests. The first request began after the launch film revealed the strike. Engineers wanted outside cameras with enough detail to inspect the impact area from orbit. They did not need another distant view of Columbia. They needed a useful image of the leading edge, close enough to reveal whether a panel had been breached. But the debris assessment team did not hold its first formal meeting until the 21st of January, 5 days into the flight. 4 days had passed since the strike was found on film. The board counted 3 requests. None ended with a useful image of Columbia's damaged wing. Without that image, the team turned to a computer tool called Crater. It estimated how a strike might damage the shuttle's protective tiles. Here, Crater was being asked about a much larger foam impact and a different part of the heat shield. The calculation sat outside the tests used to build the model, so the available evidence could not show that the wing was intact. Even so, no close inspection followed, and the model's uncertain result carried the decision forward. On the 24th of January, the mission management team discussed the debris strike. It treated the event as damage to be handled after Columbia returned. That classification changed the question. Instead of asking what Columbia needed before re-entry, The meeting focused on repairs for the next flight. No imagery request was pursued. The investigation later found that the burden of proof had been reversed. Engineers were expected to prove that the strike was dangerous rather than prove that Columbia was safe. The board did not reduce the accident to one person's mistake. It concluded that NASA's management practices were as much a cause as the foam that struck the wing. Foam had struck shuttles before. STS-112 suffered a large bipod ramp strike only months earlier, but the vehicle survived. Success had made the warning feel routine. Before Columbia, nobody had fired bipod ramp foam at a shuttle wing leading edge. The program had accepted the risk without running the tests that could expose it. After the accident, investigators mounted a flown panel 8 from Atlantis in a test rig. Then they aimed a piece of tank foam at it. The projectile weighed 1.67 pounds and hit at 777 feet per second. The reinforced panel broke open. It left a hole roughly 16 by 17 inches. The test could not reproduce Columbia's exact damage, but it proved representative foam could seriously breach a leading edge. The impact test changed the meaning of the launch film. Light foam could break the reinforced barrier that kept re-entry heat out of the wing. Columbia's crew never saw that test. On the 1st of February, the deorbit burn was normal, and the entry team began the return with no active concern about the foam strike. As Columbia entered the atmosphere, heat built around the leading edges. Near 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, the carbon panels had to keep that heat outside. But the breach gave superheated air a route inside the left wing. It burned through insulation, melted aluminum, and weakened the structure from within. At 8:54 a.m. Eastern, Mission Control saw 4 hydraulic sensors in the left wing fall off-scale low. Controllers discussed failed instruments because the wider damage was still hidden. 5 minutes later, both pressure readings from the left main landing gear tires disappeared. Mission Control called Columbia to say it was evaluating the messages. At 8:59 and 32 seconds a.m. Eastern, Commander Rick Husband began a reply. The transmission cut off in the middle of a word. It was the last signal Mission Control received. The damaged left wing could no longer carry the forces of flight. Columbia fell out of control and broke apart above Texas. Rick Husband, William McCool, Michael Anderson, Kalpana Chawla, David Brown, Laurel Clark, and Ilan Ramon had completed their work and prepared to land. Their 16-day mission ended 16 minutes from its runway. All 7 members of Columbia's crew were lost. Afterwards, the board studied whether inspection might have opened another path. This was a retrospective exercise, not a rescue plan developed during Columbia's mission. With severe conservation, Columbia's carbon dioxide limit might have stretched to flight day 30. Atlantis might have been ready by the 10th of February, leaving a possible 5-day window. A repair would have been high risk, and a rescue was only conceivable if catastrophic damage had been confirmed before flight day 7. Neither outcome was guaranteed. The board was clearer about the cause. The foam made the breach, but the system had allowed missing evidence to count as evidence of safety. Hardware and management failed together. Earlier foam damage had been normalized because earlier crews came home. STS-112 was treated as another survivable warning, and the leading-edge impact test was never run. Before return to flight, the board required NASA to attack foam shedding at its source. Every launch also needed at least 3 useful camera views through booster separation. Future crews needed high-resolution wing images, early inspection, and a practical repair option. An independent technical authority would control safety requirements and waivers. More than 29 months later, Discovery returned the shuttle to flight. The mission included the wing inspection Columbia never received. Built on warnings follows the rules disasters left behind. Subscribe for the next dossier.